Alhamdulillah.
In the name of God, and peace be upon His Prophet, His companions, and His followers. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, greetings from this stand. Greeting from here and there. A warm and sincere greeting. Full of friendship feelings, and we renew the greetings of you, honorable guests. We have lived and we're going to live sincere moments, important events, and rich interventions from the decision makers and from the renowned experts here in Marrakesh, in the framework of the International Congress in its 11th edition. Hand in hand, because our principles are committing us to discipline and to rigor, so as we can have and implement and to build the path of future. لا لونج ما يمكنش تكون فرنسي. Dear guests, time has taken its path, directing the island of Java, the Excellency Island, where you can live during best time and we can meet in the best conditions. Administration Council, General Assembly, inauguration of exhibition, International Congress. Here and there, the WAPES is committed wholeheartedly. We have started our activities slow but sure, and for this end, yesterday, an inauguration session, an introduction session, as well as some parallel activities. All those events were gathered to lead us, all of us, into the drawing of a roadmap and the elaboration of some recommendations in the qualitative and on the quantitative events, thanks to the effective implication of all of us here present, member of the WAPES, honorable guests. All of this is done in sincere feelings and in high degree of professionalism, with due regards to the universal values and morals, with plenty of rigor never met. Here we are, from Paris, Brussels, Geneva, Alger, Lisboa, Tunisia, Istanbul, N'Djamena, Berlin, Dakar, Yaoundé, Nouakchott, Abidjan, to name but a few, Bogota, Tokyo, and Peking. What a wonderful trip. What a trip via time. What a time travel to meet here at Marrakesh, the gate for the south towards the 101 kingdom, exchanging of expertise, ideas, employability, public services. These are our keywords with an adapted terminology and well suited to this context. We had a will and we had honored our words because we are motivated by a good will and with good intentions. And our prize, our coronation, is 30 years that were celebrated yesterday. but also they were marked and animated with some music animated by Tina Turner and the Moroccan folklore dance within a palace that reminded all of us from the 101 nights where we could appreciate delicious meals, Moroccan traditional meals for the best of our tastes. All thanks to the Anwar Al-Alawi in his high days. Honorable guests, after those delicious moments, here we come once again to Met during this morning in our final sessions. WAPE's staff, airlines are welcoming you aboard and wishing you to land in safe time. That was my morning inspiration, morning words for you, WAPE's members.
Mesdemoiselles et messieurs, pour rester dans cette...
To remain in this context, I'd like to thank you for being present here, so as we can respect on due times the schedule. Yesterday, during the afternoon sessions between 14:30 and 18:30, a given number of elements were taken into consideration. Some themes that you are now knowing, as well as the topics dealt with within the parallel sessions. What are we going to do this very morning? We are going to recapitulate, we are going to synthesize all that happened during all those sessions, so as any reporting person is having 5 to 10 minutes to explain to us what they retained from those parallel sessions. And I'm going to start with the subject brought by SECO Switzerland that dealt with a very important topic, the digital impact on overemployability. I'd like to thank LED Melissa Perret for facilitating this session, Janine Berg, Céline Dominique Horry, Max Hubé, and here I leave the floor now to UR, which is a Swiss journalist, under your applause. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
They're also working on a proposal in the area of social protection, but this is not a directive, but a recommendation, and it aims to improve coverage and also increase transparency of social security systems. So the unemployment benefits are the most important branch of social protection, but there's the issue that self-employed are not always covered. They are at risk of not being covered in a lot of EU countries, so they're in some member countries are working on projects in that area. Max Hubé also presented us a list of projects that the EU is working on in the area of digitalization in general. Then Dominique Harry presented as an example of how a small country like Switzerland is responding to digitalization in terms of its effects on the labour market. We are currently at the dawn of the fourth industrial revolution, but the changes in the labour market, they have been happening since the 1960s, so the effect is not something completely new. And there are notable changes in the Swiss labour market, though. For example, an increase in non-routine activities, but also the labour market in general has been growing. They see an increase in high-skilled jobs. So there's no evidence for polarization in terms of skill levels. And when it comes to new forms of work, they provide increasing flexibility in terms of location, time, and operations, which makes new business models possible. But in Switzerland, they were not able to find an increase in new forms of work. So, but there are some policy challenges, for example, in terms of in terms of it being more difficult now to make the distinction between employment statuses in terms of being employed or self-employed. So, how the Swiss government deals with these changes is their strategy is to minimize risks while at the same time seizing opportunities of digitalization. So the focus, for example, is on education, especially what unemployment insurance provides for job seekers. And when it comes to social security, the challenge is to cover everyone while at the same time allow space for innovation. So the conclusion that the Swiss government came to is that Switzerland doesn't need any big reforms at the moment to deal with the changes in the labour market caused by digitalisation. So just to give you some points that were raised during the discussion, there appears to be a lack of information on how digitalisation affects the global south. The examples were presented were more focusing on Europe, so this is an area where more information is needed. Then another question that was raised is how to finance these responses to the changes in the labour market, which it was bound to be very country specific. And another question that came up was whether these big changes in the labour market are a chance to completely rework the social security system, on whether the existing social security system should just be revised to adapt to the changes. So the concluding points are that instead of trying to move everyone to standard employment, the focus should be more on improving the conditions for people in non-standard employment. Also, that each country has a different context, and the effects of digitalization on their labour market are different. Therefore, the responses to these changes need to be country-specific. And labour market analysis is seen as key in order to assess what kind of education and vocational training policies are needed to respond to the changes. Okay, thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. Merci Madame Bettina de ces enseignements. Thank you very much. Donc Madame Bettina Duher, économie chez SECO.
Thank you, Mrs. Bettina. You have given us the big pillars of this first panel, what we call at WEBS the parallel session, the impacts of the digitalization on employment. We are going to talk now, ladies and gentlemen, about the second panel, the second parallel session, and the theme was on the e-learning and the development of the employability, and it was EDSC SPC Canada with 4 panelists: Jean-François Larue, Imad Rizqallah, Henri Metzger, and Jan Schurskon. And it was moderated by Jean-François Larue. Under your applause, Mr. Brahima Sidibe, head of the Cooperation and Migration from Mali. Mr. Sidibe, under your applause. Thank you. Just while Mr. Sidibe takes his seat, some announcement. All the PowerPoints will be on the website of WEBS next week. Don't forget that we have a Facebook account and a Twitter account. Like us, share us. There are live videos, photos also. And don't forget, the list of all the participants will be sent on your email boxes and will be on the site. Mr. Sidibe, you have the floor. Please tell us what did you talk about during your parallel session. And the report then of the second panel, that was, as I said earlier, on the e-learning and the development of employability.
Marrakech, Brehima, Sidibé, s'il vous plaît.
Ah si, je vais ouvrir ma machine.
Je vous en prie.
Is everybody okay? I feel that yesterday's night was caused some damages. So, are you okay? Are you awake? Mrs. Badolo is already tired. Mr. CDB, you're pushing me to say something that I don't want to say. So you should have come here ready to face. CDB is looking for what, looking where, looking for what? It's the idea, it's the process of achievements. Good morning, ladies, good morning, gentlemen. I'm the reporter of the workshop number 2 that gathered on the theme of the e-learning and the development of employability as recalled by our host. In my facilitation, it was assured by Jean-Louis François, the executive director, and at the Canadian administration. And we had as panelists Mr. Imad Rizqallah, Buildrop, Canada, Monsieur Henri, Mr. Henri Derskop, and Yan Sun Shung from KEIS from South Korea. We can recall from the works of this session, namely for Canada, that the experience of the group presented by Mr. Imad, and he told to us that the UTROP is a tool of learning thanks to some mobile apps to help young people, migrants and others, seekers of employment, seekers of job, to ameliorate their capabilities. And the technology provided for the amelioration and development of the learning is done based upon some studies that he has shared with us, as well as the results. 25% of the jobs nowadays are threatened to be impacted by the technology on the upcoming decade. Nevertheless, and in parallel to this, 25% of the businesses are claiming not to have a qualified personnel answering the needs of the market. So, this implies that at a short and a medium term, we need to develop strategies, innovative strategies, so as those lackings can be filled. And the e-learning is presenting itself as a collaborative tool in the case of Canada, that in addition to its flexibility is answering and is trying to adapt itself to the exigencies of the labor work with regards to the specificity of this country. I'm really lost. And it needs to be open for everybody. That's the sorry, I have a problem, a technical problem. The system beneficiates from the support of the federal government to boost the development, the local development. In fact, the participants to this workshop were introduced to some techniques for the job seekers to evaluate their own experiences and to accede to some jobs while applying online for some available offers after following and or enduring some trainings appropriate or adapted to their personal needs.
Personal o recomendación, digamos, a otros empleos.
It does not necessitate,
Inversiones en cuanto a infraestructura,
and it is positioning itself as a very efficient tool of learning, of sharpening the skills for the employers and for the job seekers. Thanks mainly to those e-learning systems, the rate of unemployment is reaching its lowest rate ever in Canada since 25 years. That is to say, around then 3% in the Canadian soil.
se puede mejorar, ya que el e-learning
As the e-learning is not affecting the working time
desde el puesto de trabajo del empleado.
from its own office or location.
Y que falta en su empleo.
That is why Canada is having 200 centers and specialized institutions
El país dispone de
is holding some working groups within different regions in the world so as to allow other countries to have their own e-learning systems.
y aprendizaje electrónico. El objetivo
The
es contestar
target objectives is to try to answer the following questions. What we can do today for the job seekers so as to facilitate and ease in their implication into the labor market. For Open Classroom, the French business, it is a free e-learning platform for the job seekers, and it is having more than 4 million learners. Majority of them are located in Europe and in Africa.
teniendo más de 2.000
Open Classrooms forms and trains people that are having already their own professional projects. The initial duration is estimated at 6 months, at the end of which a certificate or a diploma is awarded to the beneficiaries. Thanks to a guarantee system,
apadrinamiento que se hace, las mayorías
thanks to them, the majority of them is having can obtain some job offers, and it is clear today that the businesses needs more to have qualified personnel rather than freshly graduated people, and it is ensuring also some chosen training, that is to say, at the request of a business, at the request of their exigencies. That is how the business has created an institution, and it was solicited by Google.org for its services, for the training more than 10,000 people. Open Classroom, it has also some partnerships with 12 people and plenty of African and European NGOs.
a partir de un cierto
Starting from this point, for the basic training, Open Classroom has tried to go towards the businesses and try to propose its services. The principal objectives by this platform is to answer to the question how we can accompany the job seekers and the project holders so as to guarantee them and to make them profit from the opportunities offered by the labor market in the digital era. As for the Japanese experience HRD business, 53.5% in 2012, it has developed and raised to 60% nowadays, what is given to us 60% of the trainees in Japan are much more willing and directing themselves into the e-learning rather than the traditional training. The rate of unemployment is also 5% in Japan.
La plupart des apprenants en e-learning varient de 3 à 40 ans.
This project has been launched in 2003 and it is a set of network of branching and of training online. The progression of NET in 14 years of existence via more than 2,000 trainees that beneficiated from its trainings, and also the look for and the usage of some mobile apps so as to facilitate and ease in their professional implication. All those services are available thanks to one link, a free process and an online training thanks to videos, as well as the recording of your own interviews, and it stands to improve the services of all the actors. A schooling cycle as well as an available process is available for everybody and is put at the disposal of more than 500 universities worldwide. We have hundreds of people working 24/7 to equip this platform, and they benefit from the support of the Japanese platform, and it is always updating its accessibility and taking in charge the requests of the job seekers on the labor market. After studying of the data, we can say that the objectives is tending to improve or adjust the competent policies. Nevertheless, the small business, as stated in Japan, is suffering from the system because it cannot follow path to the context. A concept that is imposing more and more because the competence takes it over on the diploma. We need also to measure the mechanisms and tending to improve the employability of the job seekers and the achievement of an efficient initial missions. In conclusion, from the different presentations of our dear panelists, it is clear that for the job seekers, an efficient and fruitful online training, while guaranteeing all the conditions, offers important opportunities for the job workers as well as the employers, and on an ongoing basis, depending on the realities and exigencies of the labor market. For the businesses, they need to ameliorate their productivity and competitiveness by the implementation and the recruiting of qualified employers and staffing. For our governments, because it is going to help them reduce the rate of unemployment while answering the needs of the businesses to take benefit from the opportunities available, and it can also maintain the employee on its position, or to convert him or her into other tasks, other missions, depending on the dependencies of the work. But the trainings needs to be updated to the new realities. Thank you very much, Mr. Sidibe, for this review and credible analysis of your session, which is going to do for sure should be transferred into some recommendations available on the website. A first session talking about the digital era and its impact. A second one that has tackled the employability matters. A third session to this 11th International Congress animated by ANAPEC and SPO Morocco has tackled a very important topic, entrepreneurship and the job creation on the digital era. With 5 panelists, Mr. Hisham Tajdeen, the director at ANAPEC, Richard Avalé, senior technical officer, Sarid Mataish, responsible at Maroc PME, Pierre Soudan, Actiris, and Mohamed Mani, general director of the National Agency for Employment Work and Independent Work. Aniti, Tunisia, facilitated by Yahya Ukash, delegate director at ANAPEC. Here I am inviting Mr. Rashid Marwan, director of a division at ANAPEC Morocco. Are you going to be assisted by Amina Ghiyati, marketing chief officer at ANAPEC Morocco? Thank you very much. The floor is yours. Always with due regards to the 10 minutes. I shall commit myself to the timing a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Frankly speaking, we didn't prepare a presentation, but we have drafted a report at 2 in the morning after the excellent night yesterday. And I think that we can benefit from your recommendations. So I have the pleasure to remind you about the key points that were discussed in this session. The first part is going to be focused about the presentations of our dear partners in Morocco and elsewhere. Very rich experiences in terms of approaches, techniques, tools used by different panelists and targeting the job seekers. The second part of this intervention is going to be presented to you by my colleague, Mrs. Amina Ghiyati, about the principal recommendations and conclusions deduced after this session. I will start by the Tunisian experience.
Aniti has known the development of many tools and platforms that allow us to accompany the project holder and the information until the monitoring after the creation, after awareness raising, training, business plan development, business model, administrative mechanisms, and also networking and the dynamization of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Concerning Actiris, the PES of Brussels, the concept allows us to attract the youth that do not need any training through a process of accompaniment in favor of acquiring IT skills, allowing the creation and the incubation of startups with the creation of a trust relationship between the vulnerable youth, the PES, and the enterprises. And of course with the territorial stakeholders in Brussels. This approach is also in favor of exchanges through some trips to share the best practices between the beneficiaries and the other international cooperation programs, such as the program Min Ajliki in Morocco. That the participants to the third round table had the opportunity to assist to 2 experiences. The first one of Maroc PME, which is an organization in charge of the promotion of the SMEs. It is an experience, a very interesting experience. It is a 3D digital platform gathering the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem, and the visitors can access 24/7. This is a digital forum where we have national and regional exhibitions, actors of entrepreneurship, video conferences, digital brochures, institutional videos, and many services that are at the disposal of the visitors, that are generally project holders or ideas holders. And in order to accompany the auto-entrepreneur status, Maroc PME has developed a platform to monitor the registration of the auto-entrepreneurs and exchanges between a network of specialized advisors in enterprises creation. The second Moroccan experience is the one of ANAPEC, the Moroccan Peace. ANAPEC this last years has started a digital strategy and cross-canal strategy for the full employment. In addition to the use of social media, mobile apps, emailing, this year is the auto self-employment portal in order to promote entrepreneurship and to ensure an easy access to information and a better accompaniment of the autonomous project holders. ANAPEC has also presented a repertoire of services for entrepreneurship. It is being finalized and we are testing it currently. It is a platform that allows through geolocalization to provide accompaniment, financial accompaniment and non-financial accompaniment services, and also to provide all the information concerning the current mechanisms. It is a tool that was developed in the framework of the project Youth at Work with ILO. The national coordinator of this program was with us yesterday, and she presented an experience that was very interesting regarding the e-learning platforms on the in order to understand the enterprise, which is an ILO tool. This module is composed of 9 sequences and 45 themes. Another project that is very important, that is ongoing and being disseminated on the web with ANAPEC in the framework of the program Jeunes au Travail, Youth at Work, is the small video motions with 2 objectives. First, to support the advisors of ANAPEC counselors in order to use them in terms of in their workshops, and another objective, we can use them as communication tools. Voila, these were all the experiences that we shared with our partners, and I give now the floor to my colleague Mrs. Amina Riati to present to you the recommendations and the main point that were discussed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Rashid Marwani. We give the floor to Mrs. Amina Riati, Head of Marketing Service at ANAPEC. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Indeed, after this round table, we have formulated 5 recommendations. The first one concerns the ecosystem that will be based on the complementarity of all the stakeholders in charge of accompaniment of the project holders. The second one is on the categorization of the project holders according to their level of skills in terms of digital. So it is important to adapt the tools to the different levels. We have the level of acquisition, the level of usage, and the level of transformation. The third recommendation regards the exchange of best practices between the PAS and the accompaniment of the project holders, especially the ones with disabilities, and in particular the people that have a sensorial handicap. Fourth, the strengthening of the remote training before and after the creation, and then the creation of a mix between the human and digital accompaniment in terms of technology. Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am. Yeti. Bravo to ANAPEC for investing in young collaborators. We are now going to hit the fourth parallel session that was moderated by Mrs. Annie Gauvin, Director of International Affairs of Pôle Emploi France, where we had the intervention of a certain number of experts: Charlie Terrer, Shannon Offord, Anders Gauer, Caroline Korejski from Estonia, Laura Michel and Raphael Dera, intra-entrepreneurs, and also still here, already ready to make the synthesis, Mrs. Susan Kratz, national experts from Germany. Welcome and thank you for your speech of yesterday. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. After having got so stimulating feedback, first I would like to thank you for the invitation to report here, as I'm now working for the European Parliament. It is always nice to keep the contact with the WAPES family, and that leads me to one introduction point before I start, but having to do with the topic. So thank you also for the fairy tale invitation to the dinner yesterday, because, and there I would like to take up what Camille, the President of Honor, said. We were taught the whole day on digitalization, and in the evening it was perfect and fine to have fun, physical fun in the physical world with talks and dance and music. And I'll come back to that in the end of my report. So now on the workshop, we had 5 contributions, so we had a very dense program, and the program covered very well the diversity of the WAPES members, of the WAPES family, and also the various needs and priorities public employment services have. So I would like to start, we went really global with China. And there we see China is a very large country, 800 million active population, and shows at the same time a high potential of developing online service offers. At 775 million use the internet, and most of these the mobile. So the mobile might be the future phase of the public employment service, as we already heard yesterday. And what they try, as it is really not easy to cover the whole country, to build up online platforms from the ground, and like in many development projects, to provide better information on what is going on the labor market, and better accessible information, for example, using QR codes where clients or interested can get access to labor market information, for example, development of in certain sectors and occupations, but also what I found very interesting, development of wages or contract length. At the long term, but that will be a long way, China wants to build up a national platform of online offers. Now we go from east to the west to the United States. And there we have a different topic. It's also about online platform and services. It is about vacancy offers and what can be done if, and this challenge, many public employment services are facing this challenge, how to better cover all vacancies, how to better bring all vacancies to the public employment services. And the United States found a way in 2007, as the federal level thought that the coverage is underdeveloped, to start a public-private partnership with a special company called Direct Employers. and to build upon the basis of agreements a national labor exchange run by employers mainly, financed by employers mainly. So these services are cost-free, that I found particularly relevant. So 900 leading US companies are involved in this project, and they managed, which is very important for the US as labor mobility is high, to bring together a national platform, vacancy platform, and currently 2.4 million jobs are online, and I compared it a bit with EURES in Europe to see whether it's much or not, and I think it's a lot, because EURES brings together at the moment 1.7 million vacancies. There is also analytics and further services behind, but the main point is that public-private partnerships can provide solutions using innovative technology and find also cost-effective solutions in case of a clever setup. Now we go further to Europe and change a bit the perspective. It is about service delivery. We go first to Sweden. And what I really like, because I remember when I was rapporteur earlier also on the topic of digital services, we discussed what can be offered cost-free, as all developments appear to be very expensive, and that has an effect on transferability. And Sweden presented us innovative ways or simple ways to reach more people. The first scheme they use is a podcast, internet radio, weekly, a new topic, 1 hour. They only need a micro and a person telling the others interesting stories, what to do, in which situations, for job search and other things. That is not expensive, but has reached many people. The second way to do it is to hold webinars on a big range of topics too. And what I found interesting, to make them more attractive, to make them interactive. So it's a combination of provision of information, and at the same time you can ask questions and have a chat function. And in more general, the Swedish Public Employment Service, like many other public employment services, is developing a clear digital first strategy. And again, we come back to the mobile. So you see it gets more prevalent just to look at the frequency, how often it appears during a presentation. So in the PowerPoint, we saw a mobile with different apps to click at, and this is the new way to work, to develop service apps where it is clear that there's a lot of organization, process development, data analysis, and so on behind before it appears as an app on the mobile. These apps are complemented, we know it from other online platforms or online tools, by telephone chat, the possibility to contact a contact center online, and then you find, like in call centers but accessible online, people answering questions or offering basic guidance. We see this development also in other public employment services. And this allows the Swedish Public Employment Service to free resources for counseling in complex cases, but also to reduce the number of offices. So it's both, it's efficiency and quality. The next country we go to is Estonia. Estonia is the digital forerunner in Europe. We know this, and yet that you see also in the development of the public employment service. They are also strongly developing a digital first strategy, but they present it as one piece of the whole puzzle, and that is more linked to administration. Yeah, it is a system where they started 2002 with an ID card and a number and built it up, connecting up to 26 registers from other public authorities, health, insurance, tax authorities, and many others, so that you get really the glass transparent citizen in the end. Yeah, so from sitting in the public employment service, you can access information, get information from many other authorities. That has advantages for benefit administration that can also help to avoid or to detect and avoid fraud. And Estonia is going further with other tools, including information from work, as they have got the task to integrate disabled and people with reduced work capacity, so to get information from this side. And so they are going step by step further to avoid duplication of information. I see many of you know this problem, and for our clients it is not nice to have to fill at least 5 times the same form. So this is the most important element on Estonia. Now we go to the last presentation, and I decided to change a bit the order compared to the workshop, because that is about a special way of developing digital services, and is an example from France. It is called intrapreneuriat, so it should, it tells us that it shall create an entrepreneurial spirit in the public employment service itself. So what I learned is how you can develop tools at the same time motivating staff. By the way, that was also a positive effect in the Swedish example. Yeah, when you involve staff to do a podcast, staff, it was a nice expression, can shine all over the country. Yeah, or also in a webinar. That is a positive side effect from an HR perspective. So what is intrapreneuriat? The Pôle emploi has a special store, not Amazon, but I come to Amazon in the conclusions, but they have their employment store where you can access all kinds of services and self-help tools for job search, for career development in general. I looked at it, I got curious, and you have a whole toolbox there. But how they develop this is the point here. They first identify an entrepreneur, a coach who could develop this project, and they go to the ground. So they identify needs on the ground, and they involve users and counselors in developing a new service. And then they have another principle, a second principle, in addition to involving staff and to involve entrepreneurial spirit, is be pragmatic, not perfect. So they publish, they start the service after a piloting phase, and then they see with regular checks how it works, because that makes it easier and more cost effective. And to give you one example, which problems they detected, we all know that 7 of 10 vacancies are not published. And that limits the potential of public employment services for matching job seekers with jobs. So they found a way to collect information which enterprises on the ground show a high turnover and recruit a lot, and broke this down further to occupations and sectors, and in the end they got a list where job seekers can apply. So this, I think, is a way to work that can be transferred to other public employment services. Now, two conclusions. One for WAPES. What I think, we had a very brief discussion, and I would like to take up one point from that discussion. Most were information questions, as we went so global and we needed further explanation. So it was the question asked where to start with. Yeah, it was for Estonia. Where did you start with actually, and how did you build this up? And I think that could be very interesting for further WAPES work to get to know more about the processes. We learned also from France how they developed it, yeah, because that can increase chances for transferability. Because we also learned from discussions that IT projects can fail. And here we mostly get the success stories, but often there are a number of failures in the background. Second thing is I can only encourage WAPES and others to look further for cost-effective examples. So where can you make a large difference by not having to invest very much, and particularly looking at public employment services, not having so much resources as my own public employment service, Germany, I come from. And a last personal point, I said I bring it back to the dinner in the end, yes? And that has to do with balancing digital and physical, to bring it to this point again. Because sometimes, and that is not only in the PES world, also partially in the education world, everybody discusses new technologies and how to further develop digital services. And I think sometimes I see the risk, could PES become an Amazon, a kind of Amazon, where you as client have hard work to do before you can get into contact with someone. It is not easy, and I think some people get lost. So having in mind the digital divide, that not all have the competences to work with the tools, even if they should be tailor-made to all. It would be important strategically to ensure at the longer duration an easy access to public employment services, as public employment services is not Amazon, but a social policy institution. And a second point, what I also see, starting with contact centers and then also with the employment counselors, and as I myself trained staff in public employment services, I think it is important to have in mind the quality of the physical service delivery in the public employment service for the services for the future. Thank you for attention.
Merci. Danke. Madame.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Krens, with the charismatic, natural behavior, has explained to us the most or the key words dealing with the fourth session, dealing with the digitalization and SPE services. We come at the end of those recalling sessions. We came at the Turkey representative reporter of the fifth session, the competencies to live and resist, by Eskur from the Republic of Turkey, with the different intervenants: Leongo Tuen, Nazigan Youni, Nasser Ktani, Hisham Iraqi Husseini, Abbal Safir. I'm calling under your applause the dynamic Mrs. Gizem Kayates, Specialist of Employment at Eskur, Republic of Turkey, to present to us her restitution of the keepers. Thank you very much, Mrs. Gizem.
Hello everyone, thank you very much. I will briefly try to summarize what happened in our session. It was organized by Eskur, as my colleague said, and it was about digital literacy. We had 6 speakers: Anna Palmgren from Arbetsförmedlingen of Sweden, Mr. Liu from Melissa of Vietnam, Nasser Kettani from Kettani Digital Consulting, Nazacan Yanay from Google, Abla Safir from World Bank, and Isham Iraqi Husseini from Microsoft. And under the moderation of Emullah Uluda, I have to tell that the presentations were very high quality and very much to the point. We had the chance of hearing both from public side and private side and the global actor World Bank. First of all, we need to talk about distinction between digital skill and digital literacy. Digital skills is like sending email, posting on Twitter, Facebook, using Skype, but digital literacy is another issue. It is ability to judge and choose the appropriate digital channel and for communication. Digital skill is tweeting, like I said before, and navigate social media, but literacy means using social media or the internet access securely by clearly identifying both bias, propagandas, harassments. Randomly using social media is more like consuming, but digital literacy has productive side. Literacy in the digital side is important because of rapid growth in connectivity, e-commerce, and change in the market recruitment trends. It also affects labor markets and job opportunities. We can say that low-income countries have low opportunity in ICT sectors, but on the other side, high-income countries granted with those jobs. That means if a country's income grows, the share of employment in high ICT sectors will grow, meaning increased need for digital literacy. Our colleague from World Bank want me to highlight work is becoming more intensive in non-routine skills and less on routine ones. These non-routine skills can be interrelated with social-emotional skills, which includes the children's experience, expressions, and management of emotions and ability to establish positive and rewarding relationships with others. Those information canalize our mind to immerse our individuals' early age, which has been launched with İşkur and World Bank in Turkey. We should also think about formal education system. Mr. Kettani and many other speakers pointed out that we are still educating our children with the technology of 20 years. Substituting needs due to the lack of formal education our PESs and other actors in the field are taking initiative. They both have models for all ages. We also saw examples of PESs training its own staff to increase digital literacy and also producing their own applications. In order to better understanding the needs and what digital developments bring, PESIS keeps an eye on what other counterparts do and also try to identify the needs of their users, mainly job seekers and other parties in the field. Public sector first introduces a new development within organization and introduced to job seeker employers only after reaching certain level of satisfaction. Private sector, on the other hand, is aware of huge skill gap in the labor market, and not finding qualified workforce is a problem. They are also aware that low digital literacy means low level of customer satisfaction and less utilization of their products. Therefore, they directly train and the end users by using e-learning modules and other relatively cheap and easy reach tools. The numbers here are counted as tens of millions different countries, different continents in a project carried out Google and İşkur. E-learning model has been implemented on great number of people. Those who succeed get a certificate on digital literacy by these Google's modules. Among those successful ones, individuals are chosen bar for extensive face-to-face training, so on. In the end, we saw that both public and private and the global side are very much interested and conducting activities to cope with challenges both by technological development and requires high-level digital rates. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup, Mademoiselle Gizem. Un plaisir. Sure.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Gizel. Ladies and gentlemen, now as you might notice it in live, we have reached the last restitution of the parallel sessions that took place yesterday between 1430 and 1613 and 1718. Now we're going to talk about a point which is not officially scheduled, but I think that is the charm of WAPES, being a platform of experiences, exchanging of ideas, know-how of everybody. We're going to sign live here at Marrakesh in this spirit, in this Marrakshi spirit, via this activity of the 11th International Congress, a signature ceremony of this partnership agreement between International Fund for Employment, represented by its General Director, Mr. Camille Moté Abidias, and Open Classroom, represented by its President, Mr. Pierre Dubuc, for the online free training for the job seekers in Cameroon. Mr. General Director, President, Honorary President of the WAPES, under your applause, so as we can leave solemnly this strong moment held in Marrakesh. Ladies and gentlemen, have a seat. You are going also to give us briefly the content of this partnership agreement that concerns the online free training. Ladies and gentlemen, under your applause. Thank you very much.
Vivons encore une avant-dernière fois à l'amitié.
Let's live one last time the good spirit of friendship. Today, Marrakesh is proud to host automatically this partnership agreement and convention. Thank you very much for this fund. Thank you very much for Mr. Pierre Dubuc for the online training Open Classroom, and for the Cameroonese national platform for signing this agreement. Good luck, and hope that it will be a fruitful partnership. By this, I'm inviting you into a coffee break. We're going to resume after 15 minutes for the closing ceremony. Thank you very much.
Coffee break, please.